Well, here's the other video I really wanted to tell you about. Just how bad is the welfare state? Just how many people are reliant on the government for some kind of help, handout, etc. I mean, how bad is it? While they tell us we need to bring in more illegals and everything else so that we can pay for them too. Michael Snyder's theeconomicclassblog.com. Boy, does he have a great article that I just can't help myself from reading to you. Handout Nation. Combined enrollment in America's 4 largest safety net programs hits a record high of 236 million people. Jay Snip, isn't there only like 260 million people? Correct. But some of those same people account for other programs they're in. So one might have, disability and some kind of welfare check, right? They're counted twice, in other words. But it's still a shocking number, however you want to slice it. Am I right here? Margaret Thatcher once said that the problem with socialism is that eventually, this is what I was just saying in my last video. Margaret, I was quoting you. My last video. Is that eventually you run out of other people's money. As you will see below, the combined enrollment in America's 4 largest safety net programs has reached a staggering 236 million. Of course, that doesn't mean that 236 million people are getting benefits from the government each month, because there is overlap between the various programs. For example, many Americans that are on Medicaid are also on food stamps, and many Americans that are on Medicare are also on Social Security. But even accounting for that, most experts estimate that the number of Americans that are dependent on the federal government month after month is well over 100 million. And now that so many people are addicted to government handouts, can we ever return to a culture of independence and self-sufficiency? On Wednesday, CNN ran an editorial by Bernie Sanders in which he called President Trump's proposed budget immoral because it would cut funding for government aid programs. But is it immoral to steal more than $100 million from future generations of Americans every single hour of every single day to pay for these programs? Is that immoral? That's the question. You're stealing? The answer is yes. Of course, the answer to that question is obvious. There will always be some Americans that are unable to take care of themselves, and we should want to help them. But as millions upon millions of Americans continue to jump onto the safety net, eventually we are going to get to a point where it's going to break. As I mentioned above, the combined enrollment in the 4 largest safety net programs has reached a new all-time record high. So before I continue, take what I just said. It is a record high. For those of us with monkey mind syndrome, that means record high. Guinness Book of World Record could come in and say, it's never been this high before. You just won the grand prize. Grand prize? I won it. What is that? It's a award. It's a major award. Damn hell, you said you got a major award. Yeah, I won it. Fragile. Huh, must be Italian. No, honey, that says fragile. Oh. You know that movie, A Christmas Story. But what I'm telling you now ain't no Christmas story. This is a horror story. So, how do we have record high in that department, but we've only got 4.4% unemployment? If we had 4.4% unemployment, there's no possible way that that number could be at a record high, because that number is made up by a whole lot of people who ain't working, who therefore qualify to be in those programs. And sure, there are some people who are so poor, still have a job, that qualify as well. I get that. But there's a whole lot of people who ain't working, who are all up in that, okay? So all these numbers, stock market gain today on great drop numbers, revision downward, horrible. That's all right. We'll wait till that revision comes out next month. We won't even report on it. But Jason at 4 will. But who cares about numbers? Who cares about truth? Just everything is awesome. Legoland, right? More than 74 million Americans are on Medicaid and CHIP, which is Children's Health Insurance Program. That's a lot of people. 74 million, man. More than 58 million Americans are on Medicare. More than 60 million Americans are on Social Security. Approximately 44 million Americans are on food stamps. So here's the thing. If you just take out Social Security, because you could argue, well, we put in, when we were working and we deserve to have it when we retire. I could say, you know what, let's remove the 60 million. That's still 74 million Americans plus 58 million Americans plus 44 million Americans. That's still one hell of a lot. And even though we are supposedly in an economic recovery, this number is still dramatically higher than the 26 million Americans that were on food stamps prior to the last financial crisis in 08 and 09. When you add the figures for those 4 programs together, you get a grand total of 236 million. And that doesn't even count any of the other federal programs which are helping people. Once again, there is overlap in enrollment between these various programs, but even accounting for that, most experts believe that well over a third of the country is currently receiving benefits from the government each and every month. How far down this road do we have to go before people start calling it socialism? As I was writing this, I was reminded of one of Benjamin Franklin's most famous quotes. And he said, "When the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic." When the people find that they can vote themselves money, vote for the Democrats, I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you. Hell, we're ready to help people who aren't even citizens. Come across the border, we'll help all of you, right? And again, I hate to say it, because my daddy was a Democrat. J. Snip's for daddy was a Southern Democrat. They ought to get a rich man to vote like that. What was that song I used to do? Oh, ISIS coming from the South. We let them in, but I'll shut my mouth. Taxpayer money gone with the wind. Ain't nobody looking back again. That was a little Alabama parody I did a while back in NAM. But think about it. Once the people figure out they can vote, oh, you're going to help me? You're going to give me free handout? I'll vote for you. The end of the republic is nigh. In our country today, many politicians have discovered that one of the best ways to win elections is to promise the voters as much free stuff as possible. And you want to know a little secret? The Roman Empire, 2,000 years ago, did a very, very similar thing. Isn't that amazing? That's why I always call us the New Age Roman Empire, because you're not so different, you and I. This is one of the primary reasons why Bernie Sanders did so well. Young people loved his socialist policies, and he received more votes from millennials in the primaries and caucuses than Donald Trump and Hillary combined. As older generations of Americans continue to die off, the millennials will just become even more powerful politically. And considering the fact that they are far more liberal than other generations, that is a very alarming prospect. In the minds of 80% of baby boomers and 91% of elderly Americans, communism was a major problem in years past and remains a significant concern today. But millennials, aged 16 to 20 years, see it differently. Only 55% of the younger generation takes issues with communism. 45% say they would vote for a socialist, and 21% say they'd vote for a communist. And millennials made all that clear during the Democratic presidential primary, when many of them cast their vote for Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, a self-avowed socialist. In fact, the report credits the New England lawmaker with a bounce that led to less than half of millennials, 42%, having a favorable view of capitalism. At this point, the republic that our founders established is barely recognizable, and if it is going to be saved, we need a conservative revolution as soon as possible. A good place to begin would be to dramatically reduce the size and scope of the federal government. You know, like what our founding fathers handed us in the beginning. What kind of government did you come up with, guys? What was their answer? A republic, if you can keep it. And we didn't. It's gone. We need to get it back. And there are some promising signs of the budget that President Trump has proposed. He wants to completely eliminate 66 federal programs, and liberals are screaming bloody murder over this. Of course, Trump's budget is dead on arrival in Congress because many among his own party do not support him. Most Republicans campaign as conservatives, but govern like Democrats, and it is high time that we held them accountable for that. In 2018, we are going to get Trump a whole bunch of friends in Congress, and a lot of those establishment Republicans that have been betraying conservatives for years are going to have to find a new line of work. We simply cannot afford to keep sending the same cast of characters back to Washington time after time. Just look at the debacle that the effort to repeal Obamacare has become. According to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, getting any sort of bill through the Senate is going to be extremely challenging. Referring to behind-the-scenes work among Senate Republicans on a health care bill, McConnell said, "I don't know how we get to 50 votes at the moment, but that's the goal." Under a scenario of gathering the votes needed for passage in a 100-seat chamber, Republican Vice President Mike Pence would be called upon to cast any potential tie-breaking Senate vote. McConnell opened the interview by saying, "There's not a whole lot of news to be made on health care." He declined to provide any timetable for producing even a draft bill to show the rank-and-file Republican senators engage their support. Well, here's the other thing. I'm seeing now the last few days, such and such health care being dropped out of Obamacare. Next one dropping out. Next one dropping out. As Trump said, and we've all said it, I mean, we knew this from day one, it will implode upon itself. It will implode upon itself from its own weight. And it has now officially begun, if you're paying attention. So I think, as he said recently, we're going to push it out 90 days. You know, when we forget voting out now, we're going to push it out 90 days. So if that's being pushed out 90 days, what about the tax reform? Because that was supposed to happen first, then tax reform, because there was something that they had to do with the Obamacare repeal and replace that put some kind of funding together that helped go with the tax cuts, which simply put, I guess, is giving a huge debt ceiling increase, possibly. But so is that double kicked? Is that a double can being, two cans being kicked, or what? What do we got here? And yet somehow when Obama was in office, the Republicans in the House and the Senate were able to easily pass a bill to repeal what? And yet somehow when Obama was in office, the Republicans, that's right, in the House and the Senate were able to easily pass a bill to repeal Obamacare and get it to Obama's desk, which he, of course, vetoed. Why can't they get the exact same bill to Trump's desk? We definitely need to drain the swamp in D.C., and we can start with Congress. But the alliance between big money and big government is going to be hard to defeat. And so if we want our country back, we are going to have to fight harder than we have ever fought before. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but then again, I certainly have been for quite a few years now, because I can't seem to find any good news. I can only report bad news because, like the old Dirty Laundry song. Well, I should have been a rock star, but I wound up here. Give them what they want to see, whatever they want. Dirty laundry, up. Kick them when they're down. Talking about us. Kick them when they're up. Kick them when they're down. Kick them when they're up. Kick them all around. Or are they talking about the debt ceiling? They could be talking about kicking the debt ceiling. Kick it when it's up. Kick it when it's down. Kick it when it's up. Kick it all around. Yeah, that's time for another parody. Jesus. So anyways, History says people don't vote back their government. It absolutely implodes. Revolutions happened. People are, thrown out physically. Anarchy ensues, and then finally it calms down, and people decide we don't want any of this government. We don't want to vote for all you people again and have to deal with that. We'll just take a king. So it's one guy rules us all. It's only one person to deal with, not sharing all this power amongst all you criminals, and then we have to fight all of you to get it back. No, we want one king, and this guy was the leader of our battle. We want him to be up there. And the history says it goes great. Everything's restored. Peace is restored. Everything's good. Prosperous time comes. King's getting old. King dies. His kids, they were around at least enough age that they understood what happened, so they take over the throne. Same policy as Papa did. They pretty much do. Everybody's still happy. But their kids may not have even been born. And if they were really young children, had no idea what was even happening. Now it's their turn to take the throne. They don't have any kind of experience like Papa and their kids, Papa King and King's kids, who are now the king, head of the throne. So they're easily swayed, and we want to change this, we want to do that. Next thing you know, and the people aren't happy with the decision you make. Your dad would have never done that. Okay. We need to transfer the power. Okay, I'll create a Senate. I'll create a Senate where we can vote, and it'll be just like Rome. We have a Senate. And again, it's just I've done about 4 videos now. It's called The Cycles of Government. Just out of curiosity, if that's what I search for on my own channel, will I be able to find them? Cycles of Government. Chasing it 4. 1, 2, 3. Show up. Realist News, The Cycles of Government and What Our Near Future Holds, back in 2012. The Cycle of Government Revisited, 2013. Cycles Point to Coming Clash with Government, 2014, which I don't know if that's the same one. But you should check out one of those first 2. The Cycles of Government. At least the first one, even from 2012. Because I found a great article on it and how these cycles go. And they had Plato and Aristotle and all these people, these great minds talking about this. And there's 2 or 3 main forms of government, and then there's like degenerate, what they call degenerate forms of government, of sub-government or sub-cycles within those main cycles. And the worst one of all, one of them was quoted as saying, I'm going to give you a guess before I say it out loud, but you already know it. Democracy was a delinquent type of government, they called it. And what part of that cycle are we in now? That's us. So it's an interesting thing if you want to check that out, but you don't have to. Take care.